Hello everyone, and welcome to the lecture on reading text files. In this lecture, we look at one of the methods that we use for reading text files, and it's called the read CSV method. So one part of data analysis is loading our data. And one of the methods that we use to load our data is called the read CSV method. And it's used to read CSV files. For this example, we'll create a few CSV files and see how we can read the CSV files by using the read_CSV method or function. So what we'll do is create sample CSV files. For instance, here I have a CSV file. I named it example1.csv. CSV stands for comma separated values. And I saved my CSV file where my Jupyter notebook is. So I saved it in the same directory where my Jupyter notebook homepage is. So this is the homepage. And if I scroll down here, I'll have my example1.csv file. So I saved all the files that we look at in here. And you can always call the print working directory pwd to see where your Jupyter notebook is. For instance, my Jupyter notebook is saved in this directory, users and then Sami Shumiye. So you can find out where your notebook is by using this pwd. Okay, now let's start. The first thing we need to do is import the libraries and modules that we need. So let's import NumPy as NP, and we'll import pandas as PD. For now, I think this will be enough, and we'll import any other library and module that we need later on. So you can simply type this or copy it from one of your previous lectures. So now let's call the read CSV method to see our CSV file. Panda has this method known as the read CSV. So pd dot, and then we call the method read_CSV, and we simply pass the name of our CSV file. In our case, example1.csv. And for this case, we only have like 4 or 5 rows. So I'll simply run it. And this is what the CSV file looks like. Our example1.csv file. So we have 5 columns and 3 rows. If you have a bunch of rows or columns, you can call the head method. So first we need to save this in some variable. Let's call it data and then paste it. And then you can call the head method on your data, right? So I know that we only have few rows and columns. That's why I didn't save it in a variable. But this will be a common practice or a good practice, because you don't want to display everything in your notebook. Okay. So in this method, we see this is the content, right? Programming, Python, Java, Ruby, and 3 rows here. So here you see your first row as a header. If you don't want your first row to be a header, you can pass the header attribute and set it to be none. Let's see how we can do that. So we have pd.readCSV, and you pass your CSV file, example1.csv for instance, and then you set the header to be equal to none and run it. Now you'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 as your column names and your rows as index 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's how you can prevent your first row from becoming a header. You simply pass the header attribute and set it to be equal to none. Okay, let's look at another CSV file, example2.csv. So this is what it looks like. Now let's call pandas read CSV method, and then pass our example to that CSV file, run it. So we have 3 rows. Of course, we don't want the first row to be our header. So we can simply pass the header attribute and then set it to none. Run it again. Looks much better, right? So here by default, column names are added as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we want to change this column names to some other name, we can also pass an attribute known as names attribute. Let me show you how we can do that. So I'll copy and paste it here. pd.read.csv, we have our CSV file, example2.csv, header is none, and then let's pass the names attribute. So this will be a name for our columns. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, right? So we need to pass 5 values for our names, and we can pass that as a list. So let's pass column A, column A, column B, column C. So you can pass any name that you want, it doesn't matter. Column underscore C, okay, column D, column underscore D, and then for our last column we can say programming language. Okay, let's run this. Now we have nice column names for each of the columns, right? Column A, column B, column C, column D, and programming language. Another way of passing column names is by defining these variables. So that's also another practice you'll see, or another method. So for instance, I can save it here in a separate variable. Let's say column underscore names. So we can save it there and then call pandas read CSV method. So pd.read underscore CSV, and then pass your CSV file. So example2.csv, and then we'll set the header to be none. And then for names of your columns, so we'll pass the names attribute and set it to be equal to column names in this case. So if you don't want to type out all of this in your read CSV method, you can do that. So this is much neater. As you can see, it's much cleaner, easier to read and understand. So that's a common practice you'll also see. So run it and you get the same result. I just wanted to show you that. So here the index for our rows go from 0, 1, 2, and so on. And one thing we can do is if we want to use this programming language columns as our index value, we can do that by using the index underscore column method or attribute. Okay, similar to what we have here, we can pass this index underscore column attribute. That way we can set the programming language column to be value for our index. Let me show you what that is. So pd.read underscore CSV, and then name of our CSV file, which is example2.csv, and then we'll set the header to be none. For column names, we'll pass the column underscore names that we define here, and then the attribute is index column, and we set it to be equal to the column name, which is prog underscore language, prog underscore lang. So now if we run this, we'll see that our programming language column is index for our rows, right? So here we have programming language Python, Java, Ruby, and we have set that to be our index values. So the first one is Python, and then Java, and then Ruby. That's also another thing you might see or you might come across depending on what you want to extract from your data. Let's look at one more example to see this attribute, to see this index column. Okay, I have prepared another CSV file for this specific example. So we'll use this index underscore column underscore example.csv file. So let's first load our data by using the read CSV method, pd.readcsv, and then we'll pass the name of our CSV file, which is index underscore column underscore example.csv. Let's see what it looks like. So we have 4 columns, key 1, key 2, value 1, and value 2. And we have about 8 rows. So what we will do is we can use this key 1 and key 2 columns as values for our index, which is index for rows. So we can do that by using this index column attribute. So let's do that. pd.readcsv, and then let's pass the name of our CSV file, index underscore column underscore example, and then we'll pass the index column attribute and set it to be equal to the values here. We want key 1 and key 2, right? So we'll pass key 1 and key 2 as values for our index column attribute. So key 1 and key 2. Let's run this. Here we got an error. Okay, I know what the error is. We forgot this .csv. Okay, let's run it again. Okay, now we have key 1 and key 2 as values for our row indexes, right? So first we have key 1. Key 1, the values for key 1 are first and second. So we use those as indexes for our rows. And then we have key 2. The values for key 2 are A, B, C, and D. So we have A, B, C, D. Okay, I just wanted to show you some more examples of that. So depending on what you want to do with your data, you can use or pass those attributes so that you can better analyze your data and extract values based on your needs. Okay, just to recap what we have seen in this lecture, we saw the read underscore CSV method, and this is one of the methods used commonly for loading or reading text files. We saw how we could pass certain attributes like header if we don't want to see the first row as our header. We saw how we could change the default column names to any other name that we want. And we also saw how we can use one of the columns as names for our row indexes. In the next lecture, we'll continue our discussion on reading text files. Thank you, everyone.